Hey guys, happy Tuesday, and thank you again for being here with me for another daily reflection. It really is just so great to have you here with me and together being united, reading the readings and following along this wonderful lectionary that connects us together as one body. So today we have some special readings in honor of the memorial of Saint Josaphat, Bishop and Martyr. So if you've read the readings, and if you haven't, hopefully you'll pause this video, look at the description and see the link to where you can find today's readings. We're revisiting a letter that Paul had written to the Ephesians. And in this letter to the Ephesians, Paul is urging for unity in the body. The first thing that really sticks out to me is the appeal Paul has for the church. Paul says, "Brothers and sisters, I, a prisoner for the Lord, urge you to live in a manner worthy of the call you have received, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another through love, striving to persevere the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace, one body and one Spirit. As you were also called to the one hope of your call, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and all." If we read these readings, you can't help but think that the church is far from this appeal we find in today's first reading. We are still one body of Christ, but many denominations. We have become so divided as a church, and this is not a new problem. In today's memorial of Saint Josaphat, this is exactly the work that he fought to do. He worked faithfully for the unity of the church. And so I ask the question, how are we faithfully working to strive for this unity? Now I know personally, and I've heard from many of you, that you agree. You all share the same desire to see unity in the church. But the question and the challenge really comes down to one thing. Are you willing to go back to the foundations that the church was established on for the sake of unity? Paul continues on in this first reading, and we look at verses 11 through 13. "But grace was given to each of us, according to the measure of Christ's gift. And he gave some as apostles, others as prophets, others as evangelists, others as pastors and teachers." Why would he give us these diversity of gifts? Paul says, "to equip the holy ones for the work of ministry, for building up the body of Christ, until we attain to the unity of faith and knowledge of the Son of God, to mature manhood, to the extent of the full stature of Christ." There's a difference here between a diversity of gifts and the diversity of church. We have forgotten that God has given a diversity of gifts for the building up of his church, to equip the holy ones for this work of ministry. And instead, we're so focused on the diversity of churches, diversity of beliefs, diversity in denominations. How do we expect to convince anyone that we come in contact with about this great gospel message that Jesus provides us if we can't even find peace and unity with one another? I want us to consider our audience here. This is really important because Paul is not addressing an audience today of different denominations. You see, at the time that Paul's writing this letter to Ephesians, he is speaking to one church. There was no church hopping. There was no, denominational differences across these borders and the churches that he was establishing. The early church recognized that we were one body, that we were one faith. We held fast to the wisdom and knowledge that was being passed down by the apostles and the traditions that they had done. If you desire the same unity in the body of Christ, then it's imperative that we recognize there is only one way to that unity. Learning for yourself the wisdom and knowledge of Christ's church, the establishment, the foundation that was built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets with Jesus as the capstone. Where did the church start this process? And where did things go wrong? So many fail to even consider their spiritual ancestry, their lineage of where this church was founded, and fail to miss out on not only the fullness of the faith, but fail to miss out on the ability for us to attain unity in the body of Christ. So like today's first reading, and like the memorial of the saint that we celebrate today, there's this theme and an emphasis on unity, but the question I ask you to consider, what's holding us back from accomplishing unity? Now, as we turn to today's gospel, found in the Gospel according to John, chapter 17, verses 20 through 26, we get to see this beautiful prayer, this prayer of Jesus. Not only do we get to see the heart of Jesus and his desire for the people he came to save. We see this direct connection to God in his prayer. And I hope that this prayer would also inspire us, the body of Christ, to think about how we are praying. In verse 20, he says, I pray not only for them, those that he came to save, the body that he has kind of put together, those that will carry on this legacy and mission of discipleship and evangelization. He says, I not only pray for them, but also for those who will believe in me through their word. Jesus is already praying in advance for those who would come to believe in him through the ministry of evangelization. He says, so that they may all be one. You see, guys, this is Jesus' prayer. Jesus himself is praying for this unity, that the people that I have assembled, my apostles, the disciples, may all be one. And he goes on to say, that the world may believe that you sent me. Friends, I talked about this convincing gospel. We cannot convince people of the saving message of Jesus Christ if we ourselves are hypocritically formed. With the division that we see in today's body, the division we see in the church today is not going to be convincing enough to those on the outside that we're trying to convince of the saving message of Jesus Christ. We cannot be disjointed in delivering different messages about this gospel to appeal and attain this unity. And I believe it's probably one of the greatest reasons that Satan is trying to keep us divided. If we were united, think about how powerful we could be. Think about the powerful impact we could make on the world if they could see us perfected in unity, the amount of love they would see. May we too be focused in our own prayer life and pray, Lord, how can we accomplish unity? Lord, how can we become one? How can we fulfill your own prayer that you said to the Father, that we could be one? I appreciate you guys once again for joining me on another daily reflection. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to subscribe. And if you have questions about the readings, if you have questions about the Catholic faith, please send me a message. Put it in the comments below. I'd love to have the conversation. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless.